Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.
Parles-tu français? Hablas español? Parli italiano? If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Wondery. Spelled BABBEL.com/Wondery. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hi, I'm Juliet Cowley, a retired FBI profiler and host of the true crime podcast, The Consult, Real FBI Profilers. If you're fascinated with true crime and criminal profiling, then join us as we discuss real cases and examine the behavior exhibited before, during, and after the commission of the crime. You can listen to The Consult wherever you get your podcasts. It's as close as it gets to being in the room with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 436 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm having a great week, man. You know, we do say that quite a bit, but I like my life, and I often do have good weeks, but this one has been especially good.
I'm pretty sure the listeners are happy you saying that. I think if you said, how's it going? I'll be like, well,
I hate my life.
And you're like, yeah, I hate my life too. They're probably going to be like, maybe I don't want to listen.
Yeah, probably not. But I'm not lying.
Oh, no.
I enjoy my life, and this week has been especially good.
Yeah, you seem pretty chipper.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Jennifer Davis.
What's going on, Davis?
Deanne Padilla.
Hey, Deanne.
Summer Dawson.
Well, thanks, Dawson.
Laura Auckland.
Hey, there's Laura.
Jennifer Melvin.
Oh, good old Jennifer.
B. Alcorn.
Well, thanks, Alcorn.
Jurgen Dries.
Well, thanks, Jurgens. I use that on my
elbows
sometimes. Yeah.
Get patchy elbow.
Patchy elbows.
Jenna Hewson.
Hey, Jenna.
And last but not least, Debbie Andrew.
Hey, thanks, Deb.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Monica Holloway.
Hey, Holloway.
So appreciate the new Patreon support, the continued support. We also had a great PayPal donation from Henry Urkala.
Or Henry.
Or Henri. It could be Henri. I have no idea. I do the best I can.
And that's all we ask of you, really.
Is that all you ask of me? So we have a brand new episode out right now on True Crime All the Time, where we're talking about Brian Sugram. And, you know, let's be honest. People are going to absolutely hate this man.
For sure.
By the time they get through this episode. He, as you often put it, he was a grade A POS.
He was.
There's just no way around it. The way he treated his wife, the way he treated his family. But he also confessed to his girlfriend, who later then became his wife, that, you know, he killed multiple people. But she waited for years to come out to the police because she was scared to death of this man.
Rightfully so.
And when you hear what he did, you'll understand why. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
I'm going to be honest with you. This was a tough one for me because we are talking about the unsolved murder of Roberta Miller. My mom's married name happens to be Roberta Miller. So, I mean, as I was researching this thing, it just seemed eerie. Now, she doesn't share a lot of, similar circumstances or situations with this Roberta Miller, but it's just weird.
Kind of messes with your psyche.
It does. There's no doubt about it. On October 31st, 2010, 54-year-old Roberta Miller and her dog were shot in her home in Gilford, New Hampshire. And over a decade later, police have not made any arrests.
So look, terrible that Roberta was killed, but also a dog. I mean...
Yeah, because we have so many pet lovers who listen to the show. We talk about death a lot because, let's face it, a lot of people are killed every day.
Sure.
Murders occur, forms the basis of true crime. For many, though, when an animal is killed, it can be as unnerving, if not more so. Roberta Bobbie Miller was one of 6 children. Bobbie grew up in Bedford, New Hampshire. In an interview with the Concord Monitor, her brother Ken Dion recalled how he and Bobbie normally walked home from school, but they would often get a ride because, according to him, all the boys had crushes on Bobbie. And I'm sure you probably had one, if not a number of girls, that you went to school with who kind of fit that mold. All the boys had crushes on them. They were cute, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they never had to ride the bus or walk. They always had somebody picking them up, taking them home. Me, however, I was riding the bus.
Well, and you certainly weren't driving any of these girls home.
Exactly.
And also the fact that you rode the bus in your wrestling tights, I think that, at least from some of the friends of yours from the past that I've talked to, a lot of people really had a big problem with that.
It explains why I sat in the back and there was empty seats beside me and in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were kind of alienated because of it.
Yeah.
Bobbie graduated high school in 1975. After graduation, she and a friend moved to Arizona, which suited Bobbie's adventurous spirit. Her family said that her hobbies included dirt biking, hiking, and sailing. She was also interested in artistic projects like sewing and staining glass.
Dirt biking. That's pretty adventurous.
Yeah. I mean, sailing, I've never actually been sailing. I've done a little sewing. I've never stained glass. That seems like it would be fun.
Stained glass is a lot of fun.
You ever watch those guys or those people blow through the glass tube when the glass is hot at the end and form like some kind of glass object?
You mean glass blowers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to watch.
It really is.
How they turn it. And I watched a guy make a pumpkin one time.
Really?
Yeah. And it was amazing.
Did you get hooked on TikTok and see this or something?
No, I don't remember where I saw it. But no, because TikTok wouldn't be long enough for you to make this whole glass pumpkin.
Well, that's true.
TikToks are what, like a minute or two long? Or I don't watch TikTok, so I don't know.
But I did stained glass. I did that several churches with stained glass back in the day when I was a stained glass maker.
Yeah.
It was in between my self-reflection period time and my had to go back to work time.
I know you did some pottery as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Very famous pottery now.
For 26 years, Bobbie was married to Gary Miller, a successful businessman. They had 2 children, Jonathan and Jennifer, and lived in Wolfboro, New Hampshire.
Why do I feel like you're going to get some calls on that name?
Yeah, I've probably said it wrong. I mean, it looks like Wolfboro, but every time I think something is pronounced the way it looks,
right,
it turns out not to be.
Be like, no, that's Woofy Barrel.
Could be. I don't know. But, so she grows up in New Hampshire. She moves to Arizona, which if you think about it, it's a pretty good move.
It is.
From, the Northeast to Arizona, the climate, the people, there's probably a big difference. Obviously, she moves back at some point, gets married, and is married for, 26 years. That's quite a long time. And they were well known in the community because Gary owned Miller Chevrolet and later Miller Ford in Sanford, Maine, and other automotive related businesses. Bobbie even worked at the car dealership. And I'm sure Stephen King probably has purchased some of his vehicles maybe from there.
Okay. Maybe.
Bobbie and Gary seemed to do well financially and owned a 3-season cottage in Acton, Maine. Eventually, though, their marriage fell apart. They separated and filed for divorce on September 19, 2007, citing irreconcilable differences. And, I would think if you own one, maybe multiple car dealerships, you're probably doing pretty well financially.
Yeah, I'm thinking you are.
But even if they're doing well financially, it doesn't mean that, a marriage is going to thrive. One big thing that people do fight about is finances, but it's not the end all be all, right? People say that all the time. Money doesn't bring happiness. Well, it also can't save a marriage.
No.
All by itself.
Or maybe they just fought about the Ford Fiesta since he shifted from a Chevrolet dealership to a Ford dealership.
Like you're thinking maybe he forced her to drive a Ford Fiesta and she wasn't having it?
That could be a relationship ending.
It could be. Now, by the time they got divorced, their children were young adults. Sources described the divorce proceedings as contentious. One of Bobbie's former coworkers said the divorce was long and nasty.
Kind of like the War of Roses?
Could have been. I mean, they filed in 2007. The divorce wasn't finalized until August 13th of 2010.
You know anybody else that had a long divorce?
Yeah, I think I do. Bobbie was awarded the family home in Wolfboro, which she later put in trust. Gary was awarded the lake home in Maine. 3 days after the divorce was finalized, Bobbie purchased a home in Gilford, New Hampshire. According to In-Depth New Hampshire, Bobbie was trying to recreate her life. And that's probably not all that unusual for, a person after a divorce, especially when you were married for 25 plus years.
Yeah, it's time to rejuvenate yourself.
Well, in some instances, maybe reinvent yourself. If you're only married for like 6 months and you realize that it doesn't work out, okay, there's probably not a lot has changed.
Right.
But do you know how much changes in 27 years?
I do.
You're sharing the same friends. You have the same life. Everything's interconnected. So when you make that break, okay, I guess you would have to almost recreate your life.
It's almost like the Phoenix.
Rising from the ashes?
Yes.
She was settling into her new home, which she shared with her beloved dog Sport, and getting used to the community. She was also going back to school to study business. Bobbie celebrated her birthday on September 25th, 2010, and had a large party at her new home. Bobbie and Gary were scheduled to appear in court on November 4th because, according to court documents, Gary claimed she owed him around $80,000 in back taxes and legal fees.
That's a good-sized chunk of change.
Yeah, if you found out right this minute that somebody said you owed $80,000, I would literally have to call EMS to get you out of here.
I would have a heart attack, yeah.
You would be on the floor in either severe agony or severe panic.
I would look like the guy from Sanford and Son, holding my chest and putting my hand up to the sky.
Saying,
Elizabeth.
I'm coming to join you, honey.
Yeah.
Gary filed a motion for contempt, arguing that Bobbie agreed to pay half of the 2009 income tax liability under the terms of their divorce settlement. Bobbie argued she lacked the ability to pay. Gary's attorney, James Ogerchuk, wrote per Foster's Daily Democrat, one of two things must be true. Either Miss Miller has squandered close to $1 million in cash during the course of this divorce and is unable to pay, or she hasn't and therefore has the money to pay these taxes. Of the $928,051 total dollars she has received over the course of this divorce, she has refused to itemize anything more than $100,000 in legal fees and $110,000 in personal taxes, totaling $210,000. This leaves over $718,000 left unaccounted for by Miss Miller.
That's a big chunk of change that's going to be hard to hide.
Bobbie wrote in her response, the funds Mr. Ogre Chalk refers to in his contempt motion are assets distributed to both Gary and I over the last 3.5 years. Gary's funds, I am sure, have gone to the same place mine has, taxes due to his Sanford Ford dealership business, over $100,000 in lawyer's fees, over $110,000 in personal taxes on these funds, mortgages, real estate taxes, college tuition for my son and I, lawsuits on marital home from town of Wolfboro, 2 tractor repairs to maintain marital home and other properties, car payments, health insurance, and bills, along with living expenses while I have been unemployed for almost a year. Yes, I have no counsel. I have spent over $100,000 on this divorce to date, which is overwhelming. I have no more funds to pay outrageous costs to lawyers who prolong this agreed upon settlement. I am unemployed with no income, no alimony, no support, 54 years old with a high school education, now attending college full time to try and support myself. I'm living on $500 a month in the most disastrous economic times in decades.
Well, I think she answered the question. Where did the money go? Here's where it went.
Yeah, I mean, if she's being truthful, I mean, let's face it, $718,000 is a lot. Now, could it have gone to all those things? Possibly, but it does seem like a lot of money. Gary wanted the court to find Bobbie in contempt of the final divorce decree and a subsequent order requiring her to pay a little over $74,000, her share of the tax liability, plus all interest and penalties caused by her late payment. He was also asking for a little over $6,000 in legal fees incurred due to her litigation tactics.
I mean, if that's what she owed per the divorce settlement agreement, then that's what she owes.
Yeah.
And that's what that individual should have to pay.
The weekend of her death, Bobbie talked to both Jennifer and Jonathan and mentioned her plans to build some window boxes for flowers. Bobbie had been busy decorating her house and had plans to turn the garage into a studio so she could work on stained glass projects. Bobbie was last seen on surveillance camera on October 29, 2010 at a Lowe's in Gilford buying materials for the window boxes. She spent at least part of her weekend working on the project. And, you know, it always amazes me, Gibbs, in these stories that we cover, you know, how many victims are last seen, you know, let's say at a Lowe's or a Home Depot. And then also, you know, when you get into true crime all the time, how many suspects are caught at a Lowe's, Home Depot, something like that, buying very incriminating items.
A lot of times. They're not the smartest criminals.
No, they never are. Now, she's just going to Lowe's to buy, you know, something that somebody might do, buy some materials for a project they're working on. It's kind of what Lowe's is for, right? Some perpetrators use Lowe's and Home Depot for a very different reason.
Absolutely. I think really in today's world, I think, at least for me, it's hard to remember that almost everywhere you go, you're probably on camera. You just don't think about it.
Well, you don't have to think about it because you haven't just killed somebody or you haven't committed a crime to where you're worried about it.
Right.
Now, if you're a criminal, if you've just murdered somebody and you're going to one of these home improvement stores to buy a shovel, tarps, lime, you know, you just go down the list and tick everything off. Does it not enter your head that, number one, I'm on videotape, and if I pay with my credit card, I'm leaving like this huge electronic trail?
Yeah.
But it doesn't to many people.
It doesn't cross their mind.
Bobbie also had a term paper or test due on Monday, November 1st, which she never completed. Authorities believe Bobbie was killed sometime the night of October 29th through October 31st. Her son, Jonathan, found her dead in her home on November 1st.
Oh, man.
Yeah, for a son to find his mom dead, I mean, that's just tough, heartbreaking. But, this is also a fairly big window of time, right? The 29th through the 31st. They believe she was killed somewhere during that time. Her body was found in the kitchen. Bobbie and her dog Sport had both been shot twice. The Laconia Daily Sun reported that she was killed by multiple shotguns, which is a very interesting statement. Not multiple shots fired by a shotgun, multiple shotguns. There was no sign of forced entry. Per WMUR, according to Bobbie's brother Ken, large sums of cash were found in the house. It's not known if there was more money taken by the killer or killers. And when you think lone killer or multiple killers, I think multiple shotguns kind of screams out more than one person.
Yeah, is it likely that one individual come in with two shotguns, alternating them?
No, to me, it's not likely.
Yeah.
First of all, anybody who shot a shotgun knows it's not the easiest thing in the world to shoot one-handed.
Yeah.
You kind of need to brace yourself. You need both hands because they do kick, depending on what kind of shotgun it is. So I certainly don't see someone holding a shotgun in each hand. Now, could you fire one, pick up another one, and then shoot it? Yeah, obviously you could, but what would be the point?
Yeah, I think the only point behind that would be if you want to attempt to throw off the authorities that there was more than one shooter.
Yeah, good point. That's a good point. Folks, cooler days call for layers that last, and Quince is my go-to for quality essentials that feel cozy, look refined, and won't blow your budget. Think $50 Mongolian cashmere, premium denim that fits like a dream, and luxe outerwear you'll wear year after year. These are the pieces that'll turn into your fall uniform. Because Quince partners directly with top-tier, ethical factories and cuts out the middleman, they deliver luxury quality pieces at half the price of similar brands. Everything that I've purchased from Quince has that designer-level look, but at a fraction of the price. And the quality is just as good, if not better. I've been eyeing one of their wool coats for the fall and winter weather, but you can't go wrong with anything you buy from Quince. Find your fall staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/truecrime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/truecrime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/truecrime. Gibbs, a lot of us have a dream, and that dream centers around owning our own business. You and I turned that dream into starting some podcasts, and it's worked out great. But there's a lot of things that can hold you back. Thinking, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I can't do it alone? Well, turn those what ifs into why nots with Shopify by your side. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. And we here at True Crime all the time have used Shopify for many, many years for our podcast Merge. Shopify helps you with ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. Shopify also helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns, and their award-winning 24/7 customer support is always around to share advice or answer any questions that you have. Turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/TCAT. Go to shopify.com/TCATT. Shopify.com/TCAT. Local authorities soon learned that the house in Maine burned down on October 29, 2010, the last day Bobbie was seen alive. And my thought is this has to pique their interest, right? Very much so. Bobbie is killed in her home. And then the day she was last seen alive, her ex-husband's house that, he obtained through the divorce burns down. Are those connected? You got to at least entertain that thought or think that's got to be more than a coincidence.
It seems like there's probably some connection there.
Gary had reportedly been at the home earlier in the day, but was not there when the fire broke out, according to Acton Fire Chief Ed Walsh. He also said the home was heated by propane.
A lot of homes are heated by propane.
Yeah, they are. And obviously you could have, some kind of accident, some kind of fire, an explosion. But right, that Gary's going to be looked at in the investigation of Bobbie's murder. I mean, he's the ex-husband.
He's the ex-husband with a motive.
It was said to have been a very contentious divorce. He believes that she owes her money, a good deal of money. But then I think you could also take a look at maybe somebody has a problem with both of them. And these things are happening kind of simultaneously.
Yeah. Or someone's following the divorce case and they hear about this large sum of money that she might have. What an opportunity for them to break into her house and try to steal that money. But then they go burn the other house down to try to
put the suspicion on Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, in these unsolved cases, I think you have to talk about all the different scenarios you can come up with. Bobbie's murder was initially investigated by the Gilford Police Department before being turned over to the State Department of Justice, which is common practice in New Hampshire. Gary Miller was an early person of interest, but he passed a lie detector test, and his interviews and alibi led police to believe he was not involved.
Yeah, but like you said, they have to look at him.
Oh, absolutely. He's going to be the first person looked at. He has to be ruled out because, like you said, he did have a motive. In the days immediately following Bobbie's death, authorities didn't release many details. An autopsy was performed, but the cause of death wasn't released. Authorities also would not confirm reports. The dog was found dead in the house. Bobbie's cause of death was made public on November 4th, 2010. Later that month, the Attorney General's office said that they had ruled out several things and narrowed the time frame of when Bobbie may have been killed. Investigators for the Maine Fire Marshal determined the cause of the fire was arson. Assistant Attorney General Benjamin Agati said, per the Concord Monitor, "We've heard about the fire from a number of witnesses. I don't believe we have established at this point a clear connection between the two, but we haven't ruled it out."
I mean, it could be that they're not related, right?
Yeah, it could be a coincidence, but to me, it would be a pretty big one. It just, the timing is so strange. But then you have to look at, okay, if they're kind of ruling Gary out, then that does, at least to me, possibly lead back to somebody who has an issue with both of them. Maybe they thought Gary was home. Maybe they thought they were going to kill him too. I just don't know. 3 months after Bobbie was killed, authorities had nothing new to report. Police were still interviewing people, including family, and reviewing cell phone and other records. Authorities determined the caliber and type of weapon, but they weren't releasing that information to the public. They did say they didn't have the weapon. Police also did not connect the fires in Acton with the murder. Now, I don't know how they could have known that conclusively. It's more likely that they just didn't find anything that, did connect them.
The smoking gun.
Yeah, to come out and say that, we can say for sure they're connected. But obviously not hard to figure out the caliber, the type of weapon. It's also not surprising that that's the type of stuff they wouldn't release to the public. We see that in a lot of unsolved cases.
I just feel like probably at that time, everybody in the community was probably talking about it. Like, did you hear what happened at the home with the murder? But did you also hear about what happened with the fire? I think it would have been some pretty big news.
I'm sure there was a lot of gossip going around. I'm also thinking that Gary was probably, mentioned by quite a few people.
Yeah.
As, possibly having something to do with it. Bobbie's family has always been active in keeping her case in the public eye. In 2011, the family offered a $55,000 reward They also put up a billboard on Route 104 in New Hampton, which was paid for by Gary, according to Ken Dion.
And those are great things to do, right? We know the bigger the reward, the better chance of getting somebody to give a tip. And we also know in some cases the billboards work. It's awareness anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything is better than nothing. Now, what do you make of Gary paying for this billboard? And to me, it's either, he wants the killer of this woman who obviously he loved.
Yeah.
They spent 27 years together. They had children together. He wants this person or persons caught, or the only other thing would be it's a smokescreen, that somebody might do that to continue to have the suspicion, not on them.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's a good PR thing to do.
Yep.
But hopefully he can. I kind of think he probably did it because, like you said, he loved her, and she's the mother of his children.
Yeah. And the police don't believe he did it. So more than likely, that's why he did do it. In October of that year, Bobbie's son, Jonathan Miller, was charged with reckless driving stemming from an October 20th incident. He turned himself in on October 29th after he was advised there was a warrant out for his arrest. Jonathan was released on personal recognizance bail. A month earlier, on September 1st, 2011, Jonathan was arrested for being a felon in possession of a firearm. Back in 2007, he was convicted of burglary, which precluded him from owning a firearm. A judge granted a motion to seal the affidavit in connection with the felony charge.
So it sounds like he got in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, he did. I mean, and obviously, owning a firearm when you're not supposed to. Him being the son. I'm sure police had to look at him as well. In July 2012, authorities would neither confirm nor deny that the new owner of Bobbie Gilford's home found a spent shotgun shell. While doing yard work, a source told the Citizen that the police responded to a report of a spent plastic casing. They collected it and reportedly conducted another search of the grounds.
When you can neither confirm or deny, you're confirming. That's how I look at it.
And I think a lot of people do. It's kind of the same with no comment, right? If you weren't afraid to make the comment, you'd just say whatever it is or answer the question.
Right.
But saying no comment means you're not real comfortable with discussing it. And maybe therefore you have something to hide. Now, I'm sure that's not always the case, but I think that's how a lot of people take it.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, what's interesting to me here is that we're talking about shotguns. And I don't know as much about shotguns as I do about pistols, especially when it comes to ballistics.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's going to be bullets or lead balls that come from a shotgun that are left in the victim. Those can be recovered and, they can glean information. I don't know how it works with the spent plastic casings. I don't know if they have ejector markings like, pistol brass does.
Yeah. Something to identify it.
Yeah. I'm assuming they have something similar. They do have at least a little bit of what appears to be brass at the bottom. It's not much. Most of it is plastic, but Bobbie's brother, Ken Dion, said he had not been contacted regarding any recent progress, and he was confident the family would have been informed had a shell casing been found. For years, Ken has been the primary family spokesperson. He told the Concord Monitor that he was diplomatic for a while and sympathetic towards prosecutors and detectives who have difficult jobs, but he's grown impatient. The biggest issue is the lack of communication with the state DOJ.
Well, that can be frustrating.
And I think a lot of families go through that, especially in these unsolved cases that drag on, right? In the beginning, all right, you're all in with the authorities. But as time goes by, and as more time goes by, right, more and more time with no results, I think it's pretty natural for families to start to become impatient. Some, even ticked off that either they're not seeing the results they think they should be seeing, or at the very least, they're not getting the communication they think they should be getting.
So it makes sense that, Ken and Jonathan and even Gary would be upset with the DOJ.
I also think it makes a lot of sense to kind of have one family spokesperson as opposed to having, 4, 5, 6 different family members trying to, speak to the media. One person who sends kind of a
unified message.
Yeah, exactly. A unified message. Plus, I'm sure some members of the family are better at public speaking. Some don't want to, get in front of a camera and other people might not mind it as much. In August 2023, Bobbie's families and others rallied at the DOJ office to draw attention to over 100 cold cases in New Hampshire. Many had similar complaints. The family is frustrated by the perceived inability or unwillingness of the DOJ to communicate the progress of the investigation. According to the Laconia Daily Sun, Ken's relationship with the state fell apart. Around the time Portsmouth City Attorney Susan Morrill was assigned as the prosecutor on the case, he stopped receiving communication from the DOJ, other than from former victim advocate Joelle Donnelly Wiggins. According to Ken, she generally would not return his request for information, and in few cases would respond telling him there were no new details to share.
Well, for sure, the lack of communication is going to be a problem with these type of cases.
And I think one of the big issues Ken had was that before Morrell, he communicated frequently with Senior Assistant Attorney General Benjamin Agati, who provided numerous updates. So when you go from, receiving a lot of communication from one person, you have a different person who takes over, and then that communication just kind of, falls off.
And when that happens, the family, how are you going to feel? I mean, you're going to feel like
they've given up.
Yeah, and we're not important anymore to
yes. And maybe that's not true at all, but that's how they're going to feel. Ken also expressed concern that the cold case unit had no full-time staff.
And it sounded like they had plenty of cases to have a full-time staff.
Yeah. Now, maybe they didn't have the resources. I don't know. Ken has approached ABC's 2020 to do a report on the cold case unit. Attorney General John Formella did not make an appearance at the August rally and was represented by Senior Assistant Attorney General Miles Madison, which did not sit well with many attendees. So again, going back to your comment about, maybe we don't feel important because some of the higher ups can't even take the time to, attend this rally. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Happy Mammoth, the brand dedicated to making women's lives easier with science-backed, nature-inspired supplements. One of their best sellers is the prebiotic collagen protein, designed to support gut health and overall well-being. Most collagen powders on the market only focus on skin, hair, and nails. Happy Mammoth's prebiotic collagen protein goes a step further. It combines grass-fed collagen peptides with prebiotic fibers to help nourish your gut bacteria. It's designed to support not just beauty benefits, but also digestion, energy, cravings, and overall mood. It's formulated specifically for women's needs. My wife started using Happy Mammoth's prebiotic collagen protein, and she told me that she's noticed a real lift in her energy and just her overall well-being. Happy Mammoth uses only science-backed ingredients formulated for women. They never compromise on quality, and that really shows in the benefits their customers experience. Right now, you can try prebiotic collagen protein risk-free and get 15% off your entire first order with code UNSOLVED at checkout. That's happymammoth.com. Use code UNSOLVED for 15% off today. Homes.com knows that when it comes to home shopping, it's never just about the house or condo. It's about the home. And what makes a home is more than just the house or property. It's the location and the neighborhood. If you have kids, it's also schools, nearby parks, and transportation options. That's why Homes.com goes above and beyond to bring home shoppers the in-depth information they need to find the right home. And when I say in-depth, I'm talking deep. Each listing features comprehensive information about the neighborhood, complete with a video guide. They also have details about local schools with test scores, state rankings, and student-to-teacher ratio. They even have an agent directory with the sales history of each agent. So when it comes to finding a home, not just a house, this is everything you need to know, all in one place. Homes.com. We've done your homework. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Madison told the Laconia Daily Sun that he and DOJ Director of Communications and Legislative Affairs, Michael Garrity, were present and spoke with many families. Madison explained that cold cases are prosecuted full-time by Scott Chase and Rachel Harrington, and they routinely draw on other attorneys and investigators as needed. They collaborate with law enforcement and legal officials from every level of government. The state budget indicates there are no employees of the cold case unit, but DOJ Representative Michael Garrity said, I can tell you broadly that the New Hampshire cold case unit is made up of two parts, state police detectives and state police staff. Plus, here at the NHDOJ, our two cold case prosecutors and a seasoned NHDOJ cold case investigator recently hired by the Attorney General from Maricopa County, Arizona. Also supporting the unit here at NHDOJ are a paralegal and a legal secretary.
So there's no employees for the cold case unit in the budget, but there's individuals that
work on the cold cases
when they have time.
Yeah. And I don't know that that's all that unusual. You know, there are many jurisdictions that have their own dedicated cold case unit, but I'm sure there are many that don't.
You know, the question I would have if I was the family would be, okay, so how do you determine what cases are being worked and when? You got over 900 and some cases. When are you working on my sisters?
Well, and I think that's the tough part because, you know, are they only working a case when, let's say, a new tip or new lead comes in? I'm sure in many instances that's how it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not being critical.
No, but I think it's a valid question that the family has a right to ask. Now, in a perfect world, there would be the finances to, you know, work every case every day.
Yeah.
But we obviously know that that's not the situation. In-Depth New Hampshire reported that in 2024, Jonathan and Gary Miller were in court. Because of domestic violence restraining petitions, Jonathan filed against his father. On February 13, 2024, Jonathan appeared in family court in Laconia, seeking a restraining order against Gary for allegedly slapping him on the back and saying, "Thanks for everything, John," while leaving a previous court hearing. It was the second petition filed against his father in recent months. So, I mean, there does seem to be something going on here, right, between Jonathan and his father. You know, slapping somebody on the back, depending on how hard it is, I don't know that there's much to that. And the "thanks for everything, John," well, you can take that a couple different ways.
Sure you could. It
can be sarcastic or it can be genuine.
But I get it. I mean, if you're not supposed to lay a hand on somebody, it's some level of assault. But like you said, there's got to be something under all that to go to that extent.
Yeah, to file multiple domestic violence restraining petitions against your father. On February 26th, a judge dismissed Jonathan's domestic violence petition. The judge ruled none of the evidence at the hearing supported a finding that the defendant represents a credible threat to the plaintiff's safety. And again, a slap on the back doesn't seem to fit that bill.
Right.
We don't know what else was going on because there wasn't a lot there other than, Jonathan filed his first petition alleging his father picked his son up from the bus stop and dropped him and Christmas presents off at Jonathan's home. The incident occurred on January 18th. Okay. It doesn't seem to be a lot there either, unless he just wasn't happy that his father picked his son up from the bus stop. I'm not sure. At the February hearing, court security officer Steve Waters said he didn't consider the incident violent in nature, but that Jonathan was quite upset. At the hearing, Jonathan repeated his claim that he was afraid of his father for himself and his 15-year-old son, claiming Gary was trying to have a relationship with his son behind his back. So, okay, that provides a little more insight into what Jonathan was thinking when he filed this petition. He's afraid of Gary. He's afraid for his 15-year-old son, but why? Well, it's because Jonathan has said in court documents that he believes Gary killed his mother.
And that's why he doesn't want his son to have a relationship with his grandfather.
And he doesn't want to have a relationship with his father. And if you thought that your father killed your mother, you wouldn't want to have anything to do with it.
No, you wouldn't. Nope.
Now, I don't know why he thinks that. Is that a gut intuition, or does he have some more detailed information that he has not yet made public?
Or is he just not happy with his dad?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
I am starting to think the thanks for everything, John, was probably more on the sarcastic side.
Yeah, I think so too.
Court records indicate Gary was charged with violating a restraining order. His trial was set for March 15th. Both Gary and Jonathan denied any involvement in Bobbie's death in interviews with In-Depth New Hampshire. Jonathan said, "My father blames me. I've been heartbroken. My mother and I did everything together." Jonathan also acknowledged that at age 17, he got in trouble for breaking and entering and later for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He said, "I made some bad decisions. I paid dearly." He also noted that he now has sole custody of his teenage son and has turned his life around.
Good for him.
In his interview, Gary Miller said, "Rumors still point to him as Bobbie's killer, but nothing could be further from the truth. I was very successful. People like to bring down anybody they can."
Well, that's true too.
That is true. I mean, let's face it. People like to build others up, like when you're talking about celebrities or people like that, but they also like to see them fall.
They do.
The New Hampshire Department of Justice is still seeking answers in Roberta Miller's murder. October 31st, 2025 will mark 15 years. At the time of her death, Bobbie was just beginning a new chapter, but this was cut short by an unknown person or persons. Last year, spokesman Mike Garrity released a statement that said in part, "The cold case unit's investigation into the circumstances of the October 2010 homicide of Roberta Miller is still open and pending. New investigative leads. While we cannot share specific additional information about the case to preserve the integrity of the investigation, our detectives and prosecutors are always seeking new leads from the public." And, that's a pretty generic statement that, we do see in a lot of unsolved cases. I don't know what else they're supposed to say. They're working it. They still have it open. But this phrase, pending new investigative leads, that's the one that I think comes into play a lot of times.
Yeah.
You can call it open, but I think in many of these older unsolved cases, barring something new coming in, what are they going to work on?
Yeah, it's pretty limited. I mean, sure. Could you every now and then, maybe every so many years, put a new set of eyes on it just to go through and make sure nothing was missed. Yeah, but outside of that, you're right. You're waiting for something new to come in that may or may not shed some light on the case.
Because who knows how many people have looked at it at this point.
Yeah.
And haven't been able to, break it open. Garrity added, cold case investigations are some of the most difficult and demanding investigations for law enforcement agencies. Public assistance can make the difference in furthering these investigations. If you have any information, please report it. Even the smallest observation could provide a piece of the puzzle necessary in solving this act of violence. This is especially true for anyone who saw or spoke with her between 4 p.m. on Sunday, October 31st, 2010, and 5 p.m. on Monday, November 1st, 2010. So obviously they did narrow her time of death because originally it was, put it somewhere between the 29th and the 1st. And now it's down to about a 24-hour period.
Right.
The 31st to the 1st. But I also think this is a very true statement as well. And you and I have talked about it. Sometimes there are people who may have seen something. They may not even know it's related to a case. And they may think to themselves, I'm just not going to bother the police with that because I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. When in reality, it could be the spark that, blows the case wide open.
Another thing that you could throw in there, probably doesn't have a lot of legs, but you could toss it in there. You are talking about Halloween. And there's a lot of weird things that happen on Halloween. So like the fire to the house, the unfortunate murder here. I mean, I don't know. You could toss it around a little bit.
Well, you could make an argument that Halloween might be a good time, also might be a terrible time. Number one, there's a lot of people out and about up until a certain time of night.
Yeah.
But after that time, you could make the argument that, it might be a smoke screen a little bit because there is some mischief, I'm sure, that happens in communities all around the country. I don't know, Gibbs. I keep going back to the murder and the fire happening around the same time. And to me, that just seems like it's too big to be a coincidence. Not saying it's impossible, but if it's not Gary and if it's not one of the kids, let's say it's not Jonathan, I mean, obviously, no doubt you could be looking at a stranger murder.
Sure.
But then would that stranger also be responsible for the arson? Because I don't think so. Then you're probably not talking about a stranger.
But could it have been someone that knew she had cash, robbed her, murdered her, and then wanted to deflect, and they knew about this other property? Or did they go to the other property thinking there was more money there, and while they were there, they couldn't find anything and thought, you know what? Let's just burn this thing down.
Yeah, but then that's back to probably not a stranger. Probably right. Someone that at the very least knew the couple on some level.
To know that they had money.
Yes. And to know that they had this, vacation home, that Gary got the vacation home in the divorce. Doesn't have to be a close family friend, but somebody on the periphery even that at least knew about some of these things. Probably not I'm passing through town stranger murder.
Yeah.
I guess is what I was saying.
I got you.
I think it lends itself, if the fire and her murder are connected, more to being someone who knew them on some level.
Somebody in the know.
Yes. If it's not someone directly, within the family, which police don't seem to believe it is. Prosecutors wouldn't speculate on a motive or how many people were involved. If you have information about who killed Bobbie Miller, you can submit a tip online to the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit or call the CCU at 603-271-2663. So as we wrap this one up, Gibbs, we've already talked about some of it, I go back to the phrase multiple shotguns. And I'm assuming that was determined through, some type of ballistics, maybe the lead shot that was pulled from Bobbie's body. Again, maybe the angle, maybe something like that. It does, at least on the surface, point to more than one person being involved if multiple shotguns were used.
Yeah.
You did make a point that somebody could have brought 2 shotguns, used one, put one down, picked another one up to throw police off. Maybe that same person goes to Gary's house, sets the fire to muddy the waters or cast suspicion on him. I don't know how it really does that, though. I don't know what that arson would really serve, what purpose it would serve. If you want to make it look like Gary was involved, what good does it do to set his house on fire?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're trying to show that he was trying to get his funds back from her and then as a backup, set his house on fire to cash in on some insurance money to help pay for all these taxes. But the fire turned out to be arson and the insurance wouldn't have been paid out. But yeah, I think that's a really big stretch. I really think it was more of a, maybe they went there to try to find money and didn't find what they wanted, burnt the place down.
But it is another case where, you have a wife, or in this case, an ex-wife, who's murdered, where the husband is obviously going to be looked at. And, that person's going to have that cloud of suspicion.
Yeah. And like Gary says, he still deals with it.
Yeah. I'm sure still today, there are people who believe he had something to do with it, even though the police have pretty much come out and cleared him.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it would take to solve this one. We didn't hear anything or read anything in the way of DNA that was found. Maybe they have some and they just haven't made it public. Short of, having something like that, it's probably going to, have to come from a tip. Maybe the 2 parties involved have a falling out. One gets picked up and charged and uses, rolling over on the other one as leverage or to get out of the charge or at least get a reduced sentence.
Yeah.
It's probably going to take something like that to solve this one. But, as always, we hope the family gets answers.
Absolutely.
But that's it for our episode on the murder of Roberta Miller. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hey, this is Stormy from Georgia. There's just a break in the yogurt shop murder case from 1991. Thought you guys might want to cover that. It would have one on your Unsolved podcast, but it's been solved now. Check it out. After all these years, it's been solved. I love your show. You guys are great. I'm a huge true crime podcast listener. I've listened to everything. Was looking for a new podcast to listen to. Stumbled upon you about 5 weeks ago and have binged you ever since. So thanks for what you do, and check out that solved case. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Appreciate the voicemail. We definitely love bingers.
Oh, we do.
And we appreciate that information. We did know about it because we talked about it a week or 2 ago on Patreon. We don't always talk about it, on the latest True Crime All the Time Unsolved episodes because we're just focused on that episode. But we do talk about a lot of that type of stuff on our weekly Patreon audio and video that we put out.
But we really appreciate the voicemail, Stormy.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. That case is pretty infamous.
It is.
Or was an infamous unsolved crime. This Robert Eugene Brasher's, he's turned out to be a pretty bad guy and responsible for a number of deaths. I don't even know if they know the total, but it's interesting, no doubt, when any type of case gets solved, but especially a big one,
right? That,
people have really paid attention to throughout the years. That's one that has had a lot of documentaries, even recent documentaries.
Sure has.
Made on it. So appreciate the voicemail. All right, buddy, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
This October, Fear is free on Pluto TV with horror movie collections from Paranormal Activity, The Ring,
You will die in 7 days.
Scream, and From Dusk Till Dawn.
This is my kind of place.
And don't miss the man-made nightmares in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or the world-ending chaos in 28 Days Later.
Something in the blood.
All the scares, all for free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.